When darkness calls, the rain hammered against the warehouse windows like bullets, each drop exploding into fragments that caught the neon light bleeding through the industrial district. Detective Maya Rodriguez pressed her back against the cold concrete wall, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. 3 years since the incident that cost her everything. 3 years since she'd trusted someone completely and watched them destroy her world. Her radio crackled. Target confirmed on the 3rd floor. Proceed with extreme caution. Maya's scarred fingers tightened around her service weapon. The arms dealer they'd been hunting for months was finally cornered, but something felt wrong. The warehouse was too quiet, the setup too perfect. A shadow moved across the broken glass above. Not her backup team. Someone else. She climbed the rusted fire escape, each step groaning under her weight. The metal was slick with rain and years of neglect. At the 3rd floor landing, she found the window already broken, glass scattered across the floor like deadly confetti. Inside, a figure knelt beside the arms dealer's body. Blood pooled beneath the man's head, still warm, still spreading. The killer hadn't heard her approach. LAPD, don't move. The figure froze and slowly turned. A man, maybe 35, with dark hair plastered to his forehead by rain. His eyes were the color of winter storms, and they held the same haunted quality she saw in her own mirror every morning. "You're too late," he said, his voice rough with exhaustion. "He's already dead. Step away from the body." "Hands where I can see them," he complied, rising with fluid grace despite the blood on his jacket. As he lifted his hands, Maya caught sight of military tattoos on his forearms and the scar that ran from his left temple to his jaw. "You don't understand," he continued, never taking his eyes off hers. "This man killed innocent people, children. The system failed them, so I didn't. The system failed me too," Maya heard herself say, and immediately regretted the admission. "That doesn't give us the right to play judge and executioner." Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, understanding. "You've been hurt," he said softly. "Someone you trusted betrayed you." The words hit like a physical blow. Maya's finger tightened on the trigger, but she couldn't bring herself to shoot. There was something about this stranger that felt familiar, as if she was looking at a darker version of herself. "Who are you?" She whispered. "Someone who's been where you are." He took a step closer, ignoring her weapon entirely. "Someone who knows what it's like to watch everything you believe in crumble." The warehouse groaned around him, old metal settling under the weight of the storm. In the distance, sirens wailed, growing closer. "My name is Daniel Cross," he said, "and I think we need each other." Before Maya could respond, he moved. Not toward her, but past her, to the window. In one fluid motion, he was gone, vanishing into the rain and darkness like smoke. Maya rushed to the window, but saw only empty streets and shadows. Her radio erupted with voices demanding her status, her location, her report. She stared at the blood on the floor, at the dead arms dealer who had never hurt another child, and felt something crack open inside her chest. A door she'd kept locked for 3 years. Daniel Cross. The name burned in her memory like a brand. She had the strangest feeling this wasn't their last meeting. The hunter's game. Maya stared at the case files spread across her apartment floor like pieces of a broken puzzle. 3 weeks had passed since the warehouse, and Daniel Cross haunted her thoughts with the persistence of smoke. Every lead she followed seemed to evaporate the moment she got close. The knock at her door came at midnight. She drew her weapon before looking through the peephole. Empty hallway. But when she opened the door, a manila envelope lay on the mat, still warm from human touch. Inside were photographs. Crime scenes. Bodies of men she recognized from her own cold cases. Drug dealers, human traffickers, killers who'd walked free on technicalities. All dead now, all bearing the same precise execution style. At the bottom of the envelope, a note, Pier 47. Come alone. Come armed. Trust no one else. Maya should have called for backup, should have followed protocol. Instead, she found herself driving through the empty city streets, her heart pounding with something that felt dangerously close to anticipation. The pier stretched into the harbor like a finger pointing toward oblivion. Fog rolled in from the ocean, thick enough to muffle sound and swallow light. Her footsteps echoed hollow on the weathered planks. You came. Daniel emerged from the shadows beside a shipping container, moving with the silent precision of a predator. Tonight he wore all black, and she could see the outline of weapons beneath his jacket. You've been busy, Maya said, not lowering her gun. 7 bodies in 3 weeks. 7 monsters who will never hurt anyone again. His eyes reflected the harbor lights like dark water. You've been tracking me. It's my job. No. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the rain on his skin. Your job is to serve and protect. Tell me, Detective Rodriguez, how well did the system serve and protect your partner? The words hit like ice water. Maya's breath caught. You investigated me? She whispered. I investigate everyone who gets close, his voice gentled. Detective Sarah Kim, your partner of 4 years. Also your lover. Killed by Marcus, Viga's crew, because someone in your department sold her location for $50,000. Maya's hands shook. The gun wavered. The internal investigation was a joke, Daniel continued. They found a scapegoat, closed the case, and left you to drown in grief and guilt. The real leak is still out there, still feeding information to killers. Stop. The word came out broken. Captain Torres took early retirement right after the investigation ended. Bought himself a house in Malibu. Cash payment. Where does a police captain get that kind of money, Maya? She wanted to deny it, but the pieces had been floating in her subconscious for months. Torres's nervous behavior during the investigation, his sudden departure, the way he'd avoided her eyes during Sarah's funeral. You don't know what you're talking about. I have proof. Daniel reached slowly into his jacket and withdrew a flash drive. Financial records. Phone calls. Meeting locations. Everything you need to destroy him. Maya stared at the drive like it was a loaded weapon. Why? She asked. Why help me? For the first time, his carefully controlled mask slipped. She saw raw pain flicker across his features. Because I know what it's like to lose someone you love to corruption. My sister was 16 when she testified against a human trafficking ring. The district attorney buried her testimony, took money from the same criminals she was trying to stop. Elena died 3 days later, made to look like suicide. The fog swirled around them, and Maya felt the world shifting beneath her feet. I've spent 5 years hunting the people responsible, Daniel said. Your Captain Torres was one of them. He helped hide evidence in Elena's case. Maya's gun fell to her side. The drive felt impossibly heavy in Daniel's outstretched hand. Take it, he said. Get justice for Sarah, for Elena, for everyone they failed. Her fingers closed around the drive. The plastic was warm from his body heat. This is illegal evidence, she whispered. Sometimes justice lives outside the law. Before she could respond, the sharp crack of a rifle shot split the night. Daniel spun, blood blooming across his shoulder. He crashed into her, driving them both behind a concrete barrier as more shots hammered the pier around them. Torres knows, Daniel gasped, pressing his hand to his wound. Someone told him we were meeting. Maya's blood turned to ice as the realization hit her. Only one person knew she was here tonight. The same person who'd been asking subtle questions about her investigation into Daniel Cross, her new partner, Detective James Morton. Blood and betrayal, The abandoned factory on the outskirts of downtown became their sanctuary. Maya pressed gauze against Daniel's shoulder wound while he gritted his teeth and stared at the ceiling. The bullet had gone clean through, but he'd lost too much blood. "You need a hospital," she said. "I need Torres dead." His voice was rough with pain and fury. "And now we know Morton is dirty too." Maya's hand stilled. She'd trusted James. After Sarah's death, he'd been the one person in the department who seemed to understand her grief, who brought her coffee during long nights, and never pushed when she pulled away from everyone else. "How long have you known?" she asked. Daniel turned his head to look at her. In the dim light filtering through broken windows, his face was sharp angles and shadows. "I suspected when you survived tonight. Someone warned them, but they still let you walk into that meeting. That means Morton wants you alive. For now." "Why?" "Because he's not just dirty. He's in love with you." The words hit like a slap. Maya stood abruptly, pacing to the broken window. The city sprawled below them, lights twinkling like fallen stars. "You don't know what you're talking about. I've been watching him watch you for weeks. The way he looks at you when he thinks no one is paying attention. The way he volunteered to be your partner so quickly after Sarah died." Daniel struggled to sit up, wincing. "He's been protecting you from the worst assignments, haven't he? Keeping you away from anything too dangerous?" Maya's stomach clenched. It was true. James had been unusually protective, always volunteering to take point on the riskier cases. "Morton killed Sarah," Daniel continued, his voice merciless. "Or arranged for it. Then positioned himself as your savior, your new partner, your shoulder to cry on. Classic manipulation. Stop." But even as she said it, Maya felt the horrible truth settling in her bones. "He's been trying to replace her, playing the long game, waiting for you to get over your grief and fall for him." Maya pressed her forehead against the cold glass. Every kindness James had shown her, every gesture of support, suddenly felt poisoned. "The flash drive," she said suddenly, turning back to Daniel. "Do you still have it?" He nodded toward his jacket, crumpled on the floor beside them. Maya retrieved the drive, her hands shaking. "If this evidence is real, why haven't you used it yourself?" Daniel's smile was bitter. "Because I'm a vigilante, Maya. A killer. No one would believe me. But you're a decorated detective with an exemplary record. Until tonight, anyway. What do you mean?" "By now, Morton has reported that you were seen meeting with a known criminal. He'll spin it to make you look dirty, desperate, maybe even complicit in my crimes." Daniel's eyes were sad and resolute. "Your career's over either way. The question is whether you go down fighting or let them destroy you slowly." Weight of her situation crashed over her like a wave. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd believed in, was crumbling around her. "I have nothing left," she whispered. "You have me." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Maya studied his face, searching for deception and finding only raw honesty. "I barely know you. You know I understand loss. You know I keep my word. You know I'll never betray you the way they did." He stood slowly, favoring his injured shoulder. "And you know that together we can make them all pay." Maya closed her eyes, feeling herself standing at the edge of a cliff. Behind her lay the ruins of her old life. Ahead was nothing but darkness and uncertainty. When she opened her eyes, Daniel was standing close enough to touch. "What are you asking me to do?" "Help me bring them all down. Torres, Morton, everyone who conspired to kill Sarah and Elena." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Become what they forced us to become." Maya stared at the flash drive in her palm. Such a small thing to contain so much devastation. "If I do this, there's no going back." There was never any going back. They made sure of that the moment they killed the people we loved. She looked up into his storm-colored, eyes and saw her own pain reflected there. Two broken people, forged by loss into something harder and more dangerous than either had been alone. "What's the plan?" she asked. Daniel smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, it reached his eyes. "First, we make Morton come to us. And when he does, we'll be ready." He pulled out his phone and showed her a text message she'd already typed. "Maya's been shot. Meet me at Warehouse District. Come alone or she dies. You're going to send that to Morton? From your phone. He'll think I took it after shooting you." Daniel's expression hardened. "He'll come running to save his precious obsession. And when he does, we'll get him to confess everything." Maya stared at the message, her finger hovering over the send button. "And then?" "Then Detective James Morton has a very bad accident." Maya pressed send. "The price of truth, Detective." James Morton arrived at the warehouse 23 minutes after receiving the text. Maya watched from the shadows as he approached the building, his weapon drawn, but his movements careful, almost tender. As if he was afraid of what he might find, Daniel positioned himself behind a concrete pillar, a rifle trained on the entrance. Maya crouched near the back exit, her service weapon heavy in her hands. The plan was simple. Get Morton to confess. Record everything. Then decide whether he lived or died. "Maya?" Morton's voice echoed through the empty space. "Maya, where are you?" She stepped into the light, and the relief that flooded his face was so genuine it made her stomach turn. Thank God. He holstered his weapon and rushed toward her. "When I got that message, I thought, are you hurt? Did he hurt you?" "I'm fine, James." The words tasted like poison. Morton stopped a few feet away, his eyes scanning her for injuries. In the harsh fluorescent light, she could see the genuine concern etched across his features. If she hadn't known better, she might have mistaken it for love. "Where is he?" Morton asked. "Where's Cross?" "He's gone." Maya kept her voice steady. "But before he left, he told me something interesting." Morton's expression shifted slightly, a barely perceptible tightening around his eyes. "Maya, you can't trust anything that psychopath says. He's been feeding you lies to turn you against your own department." "Has he?" Maya pulled out the flash drive, and Morton's face went pale. "Because this contains evidence that Captain Torres was paid to leak information about Sarah's location. The same information that got her killed. That's fabricated." But Morton's voice lacked conviction. "Cross is trying to manipulate you. Then you won't mind if we review it together." Maya plugged the drive into her phone and opened the first file. Torres's bank records filled the screen, showing a cash deposit of $50,000 3 days before Sarah's death. Morton stared at the screen for a long moment. "Okay," he said finally. "Yes, Torres was dirty. I've suspected it for months. But Maya, we have to be smart about this. If we expose him without proper procedure, his lawyers will get him off on technicalities. The way they got off Marcus Vega's crew? This is different. Torres is one of us. We can handle this internally." Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. "Handle it how?" "The same way you handled Sarah's investigation." Morton's composure cracked. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything, James. I'm stating facts." Maya scrolled to the next file. Phone records. This shows Torres received 17 calls from Marcus Vega's operation in the weeks leading up to Sarah's death, including 2 on the day she was killed. "Maya, stop." Morton's hand moved toward his weapon. "You're walking down a dangerous path. Am I? Or am I finally seeing clearly?" She scrolled further. "And here's the really interesting part. These records show that someone else was in contact with Vega's crew. Someone with access to patrol schedules and case files." Morton's hand froze halfway to his. "Gun. Someone who knew exactly when and where Sarah would be conducting her surveillance. Maya continued. Someone who could feed them real-time updates on her location. Maya, please. Someone who volunteered to be my new partner awfully quickly after her death. Morton's gun cleared his holster in one smooth motion, trained on Maya's chest. I never wanted her to die, he said, his voice breaking. It was supposed to be a robbery gone wrong. A few days in the hospital, maybe. Enough to get her to transfer to a safer division. The confession hung in the air, like a death sentence. You killed the woman I loved to get her out of the way. Maya's voice was deadly quiet. I loved you first. Morton's composure shattered completely. I watched you with her for 4 years. 4 years of pretending to be happy for you, while knowing you belonged with me. She was holding you back, Maya, keeping you from seeing what we could have together. What we could have. Maya laughed, a broken sound. You think I could ever love the man who murdered Sarah? You'll understand eventually. When the pain fades, when you see how perfect we are together. How much better I can take care of you than she ever did. James. Maya's voice was soft now, almost gentle. Look behind you. Morton spun, and found himself staring down the barrel of Daniel's rifle. Every word recorded, Daniel said calmly. Transmitted in real time to 3 different news outlets and the FBI's Corruption Task Force. Morton's face contorted with rage. You set me up. You set yourself up the moment you decided murder was an acceptable form of courtship, Maya replied. Morton swung his gun toward Daniel, but Maya was faster. Her shot took him center mass, spinning him around. He fell hard, his weapon clattering across the concrete floor. Maya walked over to where he lay gasping, blood spreading beneath him. Why? She whispered. Sarah loved you like a brother. We both did. Morton coughed, blood speckling his lips. Because love isn't enough when it's one-sided. Because watching someone else have what you want most slowly kills you from the inside. So you decided to kill what I wanted most instead. Morton's eyes were already glazing over. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Maya. He died with her name on his lips. Maya stood over his body, feeling hollow, empty. The man who'd comforted her through her darkest nights, who'd brought her coffee and tissues and understanding, had orchestrated the worst betrayal of her life. Daniel appeared beside her, his hand warm on her shoulder. It's over, he said softly. No. Maya looked at him with eyes that held no warmth. It's just beginning. Torres is still alive. The corruption runs deeper than one dirty captain and his obsessed detective. You said it yourself. Elena's case involved a district attorney. How many others are there? Daniel studied her face, recognizing something dangerous in her expression. Maya, what are you saying? I'm saying we burn it all down. Every corrupt official, every dirty cop, every lawyer who sold their soul for money. She turned to face him fully. I'm saying we become the reckoning they've been running from. Daniel smiled, but there was sadness in it. That's a dark road, Maya. Once you start down it, there's no redemption waiting at the end. Good, she said. Redemption is overrated. But even as she said the words, Maya caught something in Daniel's expression that made her blood run cold. A flicker of guilt. Of secrets still hidden. Daniel, she said slowly, how did you know Morton would confess so easily? How did you know exactly what buttons to push? His smile faltered. Because I've been watching you both for longer than you know. The final truth. The revelation hit Maya like a physical blow. She stepped back from Daniel, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon. How long? She whispered. Daniel's face was a mask of resigned pain. 18 months. Before Sarah died. Yes. The warehouse suddenly felt suffocating. Maya's vision tunneled, focusing only on the man she'd begun to trust. The man who'd awakened feelings in her she thought had died with Sarah. You were watching us. watching Sarah and me. I was investigating the corruption network, following the money trail from Elena's case. It led me to Torres, and Torres led me to Sarah's investigation into Marcus Vega. You knew they were going to kill her. The words came out flat, emotionless. I suspected Morton might try something. I didn't know it would be ... Daniel's voice broke. Maya, I tried to warn her. Anonymously. I sent tips about Vega's crew, tried to redirect her investigation away from the most dangerous targets. But you didn't save her. I was in Baltimore, tracking another lead. By the time I realized what was happening, she was already dead. Tears ran down Daniel's face. I've lived with that guilt every day since. Maya felt something fracture inside her chest. Not her heart, that had been broken beyond repair months ago. Something deeper. The last fragment of faith she'd carried. You used her death, she said quietly. You used my grief to get close to me. No, Maya, no. What happened between us, what I feel for you, that's real. Is it? Or is it just convenient? Another way to manipulate the grieving detective into helping you with your crusade? Daniel stepped toward her, and she drew her gun. Don't, she said. Don't take another step. Maya, please. Listen to me. I'm done listening. You had 18 months to tell me the truth. Instead, you let me believe you were just some avenging stranger who understood my pain. Her voice hardened. You let me develop feelings for a lie. My feelings for you are not a lie. Elena's death is not a lie. Everything I told you about the corruption, about Torres and Morton, all of that is true. But your convenient appearance in that warehouse, your perfect understanding of my situation, the way you seemed to know exactly what to say to recruit me. Maya's gun remained steady on his chest. That was all calculated. Daniel closed his eyes. Yes, the admission hung between them like a blade. You're no different than Morton, Maya said. He manipulated me through comfort and protection. You manipulated me through shared trauma and understanding. But it was all manipulation in the end. Maya, I love you. You love what I can do for you. My badge, my access, my willingness to cross lines for revenge. She smiled bitterly. Did you plan for me to fall in love with you, too? Was that part of the strategy? You fell in love with me? Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. The question shattered what remained of Maya's composure. Because she had. Despite everything, despite the betrayal and the lies, she'd fallen for the broken man who'd understood her darkness. It doesn't matter now, she said. It's the only thing that matters. No. Maya's voice was steel. What matters is that you're just another person who decided my life was acceptable collateral, damage in your personal war. Maya, I can make this right. We can still destroy Torres, expose the whole network. We can get justice for Sarah and Elena. We? Maya laughed, a sound like breaking glass. There is no we. There never was. She backed toward the exit, her gun never wavering. If you truly love me, she said, you'll let me walk away. You'll disappear and never contact me again. And if you stay, if you let me prove that everything I feel for you is real? Maya paused at the doorway. Then I become just another woman you've destroyed in the name of justice. Maya, wait. But she was already gone, disappearing into the rain-soaked night. Daniel stood alone in the warehouse, surrounded by the ghosts of his choices. Morton's body cooling on the concrete. The flash drive with evidence that could topple an empire of corruption. And the echo of Maya's footsteps walking away from everything they might have been. He pulled out his phone and deleted every file related to her. Every photo, every surveillance report, every carefully gathered piece of information he'd used to win her trust. It felt like cutting out pieces of his own heart. 3 days later, Captain Torres was found dead in his Malibu home. Apparent suicide, with a signed confession detailing his role in Detective Sarah Kim's murder. The letter also named 17 other corrupt officials and provided evidence of their crimes. The media called it the largest police corruption scandal in the city's history. Maya watched the news coverage from a hotel room in Seattle, a new identity already in place. She'd used her last official act as a detective to ensure Torres's confession would be taken seriously. Then she'd vanished into the same shadows that had swallowed Daniel Cross. 6 months later, she received a package with no return address. Inside was a newspaper clipping about the conviction of District Attorney Patricia Vance for suppressing evidence in multiple cases, including the murder of Elena Cross. At the bottom, someone had written, "For Sarah, for Elena, for justice." Maya burned the clipping but kept the ashes. She understood now that some forms of love were too damaged to survive the truth. That justice and revenge were not the same thing, no matter how much they resembled each other in the dark. But she also understood that some wounds never heal, and some people are too broken to be saved. Maya Rodriguez died in that warehouse the night she learned the truth about Daniel Cross. What emerged was something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. The city's corruption network had created two monsters in their pursuit of profit. Now those monsters were hunting them. The end.